Hey folks, it's Cameron from the Brushfire Mind, and this is coffee. If you check out the link down below in the description, you can find ways to support us by buying us more coffee. Okay, thanks.
God, that finger click is terrible, Cameron. Okay, we had Cameron a second ago. We'll have him back momentarily, I'm sure. Let me say good morning because Fish and Golf has first blood this morning. Good morning, Sunshine. Here's to you. I see Danny Patrick's with us, and there's Stryker. Good morning, gentlemen. Bit of a sausage party in here, and there's the Sergeant Major as well. Okay, so this morning we're going to be talking about the UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, the assassination of Brian Thompson in New York City. And y'all, there's a lot to talk about here, and there's analysis to be done on the shooter. There's speculation to be had about some interesting conspiracy theories. And of course, as our longtime watchers know, Cameron and I both have a background in the insurance business. And all three of us are pretty avid Second Amendment guys. And, that's not just a mechanism of theory. I mean, Mario and I have both carried firearms in combat. Not like Tim Walz. Like, I shot people. Well, that's part of what you do. I mean, the primary job of the Army is to kill bad guys and blow shit up.
Well, not like Tim Walz, as in you actually went. Like you could have been a cook, and you would have did more than Tim Walz did.
I know how to load a shotgun, which makes me more of a firearm expert than Tim Walz.
Bro, I know how to load a shotgun. And I've never been in the military. Like that was. Hey, real quick.
Waller says he has things to say about this topic. Y'all, how do y'all feel about bringing on a fourth host?
Well, I'm good with it. Like
I don't think it's your show.
Yeah, it's not the Cameron mind or the whatever. So, real quick before we go down that rabbit hole, can I just say something real quick? I've been listening to the show this week, and there is one thing that I would actually like to add to the Hunter Biden part, but I was kind of surprised you missed. And it happened to work out because it belongs right here in Firearms Friday.
Yes, I know where you're going, and yes.
While the Hunter Biden pardon, obviously it's corrupt. Joe Biden's playing CYA, and he's probably even given one of these to everybody on the way out the door. And yeah, I know. Beep boop, beep boop. If it was my kid, I probably would pardon him too. Yeah. I got all that. Yep. However, guys, we need to look at this as a win. And let me tell you why. Anytime you pardon somebody for a federal gun crime, I'm sorry, I'm calling that a W all day long, unashamedly, unabashedly. Federal gun control laws shouldn't exist anyway. You could, at least in theory, make an argument that state-level gun control laws can exist. I don't agree to that theory, but at least you could make the argument. But you can't make the argument that the federal government should have federal gun control laws. They're fundamentally wrong and evil. Like, the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment of the federal Constitution. So anytime you wipe out a gun charge, I say good. Good. If it's stupid for the president's son to have to fill out this form, okay, you know what? I agree with you. It is stupid that the president's son should have to fill out that form.
Okay, I thought you were going to go the other way with that. So let me tag a couple things there. Since it's Firearms Friday, this is a great conversation to be having. But I do want to do the UHC thing. But on those gun charges, I did not want to. I really wanted to see Hunter have to make the arguments, right? Because Hunter Biden, a notoriously anti-2A public figure, was about to be forced to go before a judge and make the argument that the charges against me are unconstitutional, and any law that provides for the opportunity for those charges to be brought should be stricken down for that purpose. And then real quick, you said that there can be an argument made for gun laws at the state level. We've talked about this before on the show. There's a very important distinction between the functionality of the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. The First Amendment says the Congress shall make no law, and then it lists the five freedoms that will not be restricted. The Second Amendment makes no such caveat. So the Second Amendment clearly prohibits even the individual states from passing laws that even refer to guns or weapons of any kind. That's knives, axes, swords, guns, fucking rocket launchers, nukes, arms, right? So while the First Amendment, there's an interpretation where you could say that the First Amendment only restricts the federal government from abridging the right of speech, assembly, etc. There is no such argument within the letter of the law to be made on behalf of the states violating the Second Amendment. But I really would have loved to see Hunter's gun charges go up to the court, and those justices say, "You're right. You should not have to fill out that form."
I didn't know that. I didn't know that Hunter was anti-gun rights. I mean, I assumed if you were to place a loaded weapon in a trash can, like outside of an elementary school, that would make you a 2A absolutist. But, I mean,
Look,
so I'm wrong.
I didn't say that I agree with it. I have said before that I think all gun control laws are they're infringement, and and frankly, they're literally systemic racism. Like, you want to get rid of systemic racism, get rid of gun control. I was just saying that the argument itself could be made. Not that I agreed with it. I was merely trying to buttress the point that this is just such a solid win. And yeah, okay, fine. It would have been great to see a Hunter argue. Now, hold on. I have a 2A right, even if I'm a crackhead, which I actually tend to agree with. I was just trying to get to the point of, hey, look, man, we got a federal gun charge wiped away. Good.
See, and that's what I didn't mean to. I didn't intend to mischaracterize what you were saying as suggesting that you supported or agreed with that position. My point was, there's not a legal argument within the confines of the text to be made for the states having an extended authority there. And then Mario, to what you said, as funny as it was, let's remember, nobody is more pro gun control than criminals.
I can see
anytime you hear somebody suggest that they want you to be disarmed, right? Unless you're talking about a liberal white woman that's just afraid for her babies and doesn't have two other brain cells to rub together and understand any order of thought beyond basic first order checkers. The fact is, nobody is more interested in gun control than the people who would prefer that their victims be unarmed and unable to defend themselves.
In this house, we believe.
Yeah, it's the Alex Baldwin paradox. Yes.
Yeah, in this house, we do not believe. We reload.
The gun just went off. So anyway, rich people getting greased publicly. Is America ready? Let's go. Right.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, I'm getting hit with ads from my articles. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up this article from CNN of all places. I like to use CNN because they're assholes and they're just ripe for criticism.
They're doing better. They're doing better though. They're trying.
They
really are.
They're desperate, is what they are.
They're all desperate. But they're.
CNN, so from CNN, gunman at large after UnitedHealthcare CEO fatally shot in brazen targeted attack. Okay, one of the biggest things that I'm seeing in the news related to this is people appear to be shocked that the gunman remains at large. We've talked about this, especially on not just on this show, but especially on this segment on Firearms Friday. Y'all, the national murder solve rate is below 50%.
Yeah, but this guy's getting caught.
Statistically, if you commit a murder and have any level of competence whatsoever, like basically you don't get caught for murder unless you have no premeditation, right? And this appears to be very premeditated, but I am reticent to suggest that this was a professional hit.
I don't know what to suggest. I would actually be interested to hear the military minds kind of pontificate on this.
He brought his cell phone to the scene of the crime. That's not a professional move.
Correct.
That's not. I mean, if you knew anything, just basic geofencing, like even everyone in the civilian world knows that. But I mean,
if he brought his cell phone, how come we don't know who he is?
That's a very good question. Okay, I don't know, but maybe it's like DEI and the New York City Police Department. Maybe if like all the detectives were still WAPs and mix, they would have had their man by now. But I don't know.
Wow, Mario, we're 9 minutes in. Well, 13 minutes in, and we're just casual racism. Here we go.
Yeah, but everyone in the show right now is either a WAP or a MIC, so that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm an American. I don't ascribe to your hyphenation. I'm an American. My parents were Americans. Their parents were Americans. I'm an American.
I'm a greaseball American. Anyway,
you're a greaseball.
So anyway, yeah, he brought a cell phone to the scene of the crime. I mean, he could be, if they have the phone, then they can trace back his activity for indefinitely. Okay. Unless it's still an iPhone issue where iPhone won't give them the like the key to unencrypt it. But I'm pretty sure Apple already had that taken care of years ago in that famous story, when they have all the necessary memorandums of intent in place.
Yeah, but you could just have a used phone. You could take it to Metro PCS, pay them $50, and you have 30 days of service.
It could be a burner phone, but it doesn't matter. It's still a liability. Okay,
it is.
It's still a breach of OPSEC. If you're going to do something like this, you want to go in gray man mode. Okay, where you have nothing, even his backpack. Okay, would be a mistake because it's a distinctive, it's like a $200 and $300 photographer's black backpack. Okay, so limited sale.
Real quick, Mario, real quick to your point about the backpack. Not only is this particular backpack distinguishable because it's kind of like a designer cameraman bag. He has it on him, like you said, gray man mode. You know, you would ditch the bag, make the hit, and then catch the bag on exfil.
Yeah, yes, you want to be man in a hoodie with a COVID mask, no electronics, save for your weapon. That's it. That would be the correct way to do this. And the renting that. So he used a rental bike. Okay. Look, I haven't been in a big city in many years, so I don't know exactly how it works. But I'm pretty sure you pay to unlock one of these bikes, and then you can drive it around the city, and then you're supposed to put it back within a certain time period at one of their charging stations, right? So that would leave a record as well.
Correct, because you have to pay for that. It's not like they take cash,
exactly,
right? So you're either getting a card, or credit card, or something like Apple Pay on your phone.
Or you could get a Visa gift card.
I was about to say the Visa gift card is one way that you could subvert that. But even then, the Visa gift card.
Usually, the Visa gift card needs to have a zip code. You have to attach a zip code to it to make it work at that type of transaction.
Now, to Cameron's credit, the Visa gift card would be a more secure maneuver than just using your own debit card, for example, but it's still a massive point of liability.
Yep. Yeah, you're just thinking basically limit as many things that can tie you back. Okay. Now we know that the killer took a Greyhound on November 30th from Atlanta to New York. Okay. So he's, I guess.
So we have bus records, we have a phone, we have all this stuff, and we don't know who this guy is. That's the thing that's kind of blowing my mind here.
Maybe they do. They just haven't. Maybe they do. They just haven't said so. Maybe they know exactly who he is. It's just
we know what his fucking face looks like. So
that's funny because he checked into a hostel in New York, right? And he apparently couldn't help himself. He was flirting with the concierge, and she wanted to see his smile, so he put down his mask for a moment and smiled at her. The parasocial thing. Women are like fawning over this guy online right now, like on Twitter. He's like thirst trap for thoughts, and it just women are attracted to murderers and psychopaths. It's their nature.
Well, that's why Netflix runs the the mind of the killer garbage like they do.
Yeah, I don't know any dudes that watched the first 48.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, so he's from Atlanta, apparently. All right. And traveled to New York on the 30th and checked into a hostel. There are recording devices, apparently, and cameras in the hostel. So there's going to be plenty of images of this guy on film, more than just of what's been released to the public.
Now, as I understand it, that photo that you're referencing, that is a person of interest who may have had contact with the assassin and not actually a suspect.
That's true. That's true. But they look similar. That's the lead. At least that's the lead.
In the image, he's not wearing the same hoodie.
Correct. And the backpack is a different color. But whatever. Those are the images that New York City police have released asking for information. Okay,
right.
So I guess that's what we're going to go on.
Now, in fairness, the hoodie he's wearing in those images might be the hoodie that's in the backpack, and the hoodie that he's wearing in the video might be the hoodie that was in the backpack when he checked into the hostel. But as I understand it, that's a person of interest and not, at this time, a suspect.
Any number of scenarios are possible. Okay, so let's talk about the gun. Do you have the video, perchance?
I do. Of course.
Okay. So, and
I thought this might come up.
I dropped in Camario. Can you pull up that well pipe gun or whatever?
Here, let's take a look at the video first, because I can only share one thing at a time here.
Bullshit.
I just reposted it anyway. That's it. All right.
Okay. So here's the video, and of course it's grainy, it's a low quality security footage, and I'm a little reticent to show this while we're on YouTube, but let's see what happens.
I just want to know if I just wanted you to get the slide mechanism on his weapon. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. See.
Okay. So that looks like a slide.
And
all right.
I don't want to spend too much time on the video, but I want you to pay attention to this. I think it's the third time he adjusts it. Okay. Okay, see there? He had to do a tap. He had to do a tap. He had to do a pull.
Yeah.
So that looks like that looks to me like it's not something he's correcting a malfunction. He's not operating a well rod.
I agree with you. I agree. Now, the media is publishing this image of this well rod weapon. I don't really know why. I think it's just they don't quite understand that if he's using subsonic rounds, then there might not be enough powder, okay, to actually complete the action of sliding the slide going back and basically chambering another round, which is why he would have to manually do it. So I think that's just
trying to open that image. Keep talking.
Yeah. So. Right. It's most likely subsonic rounds that basically are low powder. They're meant to make less noise because a 9mm, even suppressed, is a very noisy weapon. You still would need like hearing protection, honestly. It's not like a
they're suppressors, not silencers.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Now, if it's a 22 caliber or a 45, then it actually does silence it. It's almost silent. You hear more of the machine action of the weapon than you do the actual round firing. But 9mm is not subsonic. Okay, so you are going to hear that unless it's a special type of round intentionally meant to be subsonic, which means it would have a lower powder, less powder in the casing. So yeah, and based on it, it's this weapon here, as you can see, if he was rechambering the weapon, he'd be pulling it from the back, whereas you noticed in this individual, the shooter was reaching over it, grabbing a slide, which is not how that weapon would operate.
Correct.
The point of this gun is it's meant for assassination or whatever. Honestly, these things were invented due to supply shortages in World War II. The British carried them because it requires way less machining because you're manually achieving the action. As opposed to having a complicated semi-automatic device. So these are meant to be like cheap guns, but it does give you one advantage in that it does not automatically eject the shell when you fire. Okay, so ejecting the shell would require you pulling back on that little plunger thing at the rear of the weapon. So if you're just firing one shot and you don't want to leave any evidence like a casing, then this would be useful. Okay?
But he left a casing.
Plus, it's got an internal suppressor, meaning that the suppressor is built into the weapon. It's established as part of the barrel, which is handy.
And there, so another piece of evidence in the case is that he did indeed leave. He did indeed leave casings, not just casings.
Intentionally. Yes.
Right.
Deny, defend, and depose.
Exactly.
Apparently
this is
live rounds. He ejected live rounds, so he was definitely clearing a malfunction.
Yeah.
Which is that in and of itself. Well, okay. Let me rephrase. He wasn't definitely clearing a malfunction. There's one spot where it looks like he was clearing a malfunction. It's possible that he wanted it to look like he was clearing a malfunction. But what he was really doing is he wanted to eject the live round because it was one of the live rounds he ejected that had the message on it: depose, delay, defend.
Deny, but yes.
Yeah. Which apparently is a play on words.
The book title is Deny, Delay, Defend. The writing on the round was Depose, Delay, Defend.
Depose. Yeah, correct. But either way, it's obviously a play. It appears to be a play.
Yeah, it's a play on the title of the book.
On the book.
The book
was
being
an expose about the insurance industry. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Anyway. So just a couple of theories. Right. And I'm not saying I believe any of these, just spitballing. So what if this guy was just the right amount of crazy to pull something like this off? Sometimes people accomplish things that would otherwise be impossible to do because they simply refuse to accept that they're impossible. What if this guy was just nutty? And like we're looking for all these connections and reasons and why there are so many contradictions in the story. Well, because the dude was nuts. There's that. And this is another thought that I had. Again, we have all these kind of bizarre contradictions in the story. Well, a professional wouldn't do this and a professional wouldn't do that. Well, I mean, guys, y'all are the ones with military experience. Is there not value in doing something publicly and make this public thing appear to be one way intentionally, even though it is not actually the way you have made it appear? It's like, oh, I don't know. You do a professional hit on somebody and make it look like some moron rank amateur did the hit. Is that not at least possible? So those are just the two things I'm tossing out. He's nuts, or this is like a bizarre false flag for a reason I can't quite put my brain around.
Or he was radicalized by Taylor Lorenz.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I want to talk about Taylor now. So the other thing that we've got as far as kind of as fallout here is almost immediately Taylor Lorenz starts making commentary on the assassination. She posted this, right? She goes on Blue Sky and everything else. CEO down with like birthday balloons and stuff, and actually goes so far as to post this where she says, and people wonder why we want these executives dead. And there's another one that I won't share on here for, to appease the censorious overlords, as it were, where she just said, basically she made some very thinly veiled calls to action and posted the face of the Blue Cross Blue Shield CEO. And all of a sudden, hey, what do you know? Yesterday, Blue Cross Blue Shield just retracted this massive controversial policy that they're moving forward with. And I want to talk about that policy a bit too. But first, so the policy in question is that these insurance companies are about to issue a policy that says they won't. The way it's being framed in the media is they're saying that they're going to refuse to pay for anesthesia if a surgical procedure goes on beyond a certain amount of time. And so it's being billed like, listen, we're just not going to pay for you to have anesthesia, palliative treatments. If you have a complex surgery, you're just going to have to feel the pain and suffer through the last half of it because
Do this Civil War surgery.
Right? Yeah. But the truth there is what they're doing is these companies are updating their policy on how anesthesia is compensated to match with how the Medicare and Medicaid administrations deal with anesthesia, because there's a massive problem in healthcare where anesthesiologists are basically overdoing it. They're going beyond. They're intentionally overinflating their billable hours on anesthesia and conducting fraud. And before anybody starts to say, well, no, but doctors, let me remind you, we're talking about the same medical system that during the pandemic dramatically overreported COVID-19 cases, left people to die on respirators, knowing that people put on respirators had like an 80% chance to die. Not an 80% survival rate, like a 20% survival. It was a little lower than that, but
yeah, it was the combination of ventilators and the remdesivir. Okay,
correct.
Was killing
during
that was
that
the recommendation.
Keep in mind that one of the things that we talked about and pointed to with hospitals so dramatically, one of the most famous cases, there was a guy that died in a freaking motorcycle crash,
But he had COVID.
and so it was listed as a COVID, as dying of COVID. We talked about dying of COVID versus dying with COVID. And when you look at the numbers, it looks like virtually nobody died of COVID. People had COVID and also, heart attack and also cancer and also car accident and also were shot 3 times in the face, right? And so, Waller just put a button on that one. The companies aren't preventing the care. They're just limiting their payouts. They're not even limiting their payouts. What they're saying is the surgery takes this amount of time. You will not keep them under for an extra hour or two. Right? So there's massive fraud going on in the medical industry. So Taylor Lorenz there's conversation, I called in the Tim Pool show last night, and they were talking about whether or not what Taylor Lorenz said should qualify as terroristic threats. And when I called in, I got them to talk about this question. I said, no, Taylor Lorenz is not making threats. These are not terroristic threats. What she's doing is she is actively shopping for an assassin.
Would someone rid me of this priest?
She hasn't threatened, I'm going to come kill you. Exactly. Cameron said it. Someone rid me of this priest. And she's taking it a step further. She's putting out a poster that says one priest needs removed, accepting all takers. So what she's done is made an explicit call to action for the public to commit murders for political gain.
Yeah, this is
there's a little
go ahead, Mario.
Overlap. Yeah, there's kind of an overlap here amongst populist leftism and populist, right wingers. You know what I mean? And executing a CEO, an executive. So the left likes it because some rich greedy CEO got greased, and the right people, honestly, they're indifferent to it. Like, oh well, no sense crying over spilled insurance executives, So there is kind of an overlap in the public's thirst for Robin Hood style economic justice, shit like that. Especially with wealth disparity, income disparity at all-time high. People are going to have no sympathy, and the people just don't have sympathy anymore. So that's why it's a cultural watershed moment. That's why it's being portrayed as such.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna jump in and say the thing. Part of what I was saying in our internal chat last night. most people do not understand the insurance industry at all.
Correct. I don't.
And here's the thing: people say, "Oh, the insurance industry denied your claim." Yes, that is technically what happens, but insurance companies actually aren't looking to deny your claims. That's not at all how their business model works. And before you go, "Oh, Cameron, but insurance companies deny claims all the time." Well, when they deny your claim, you haven't met one of the conditions of the claim. I can assure you 100% of the time you meet 100% of the conditions of your claim, the insurance company will pay. Like you can't find an instance of it. There might be paperwork, there might be verification checks, but there are all sorts of good reasons for an insurance company to be suspicious of paying out a claim. Like, for example, anesthesiologists saying, well, this surgery should only take 5 hours, but I'm going to keep them under for 6 and bill for that extra hour. Well, that's a problem. I would go so far as to say that if you looked at the whole thing on balance, all insurance companies pay out more in claims that are at least partially fraudulent than they deny in claims that are legitimate. So saying that, well, insurance companies are evil, they're just looking to screw you over. Like, I worked in the insurance industry, everything from cancer policies, life insurance policies, fire policies. I basically did just about everything but auto insurance. And kind of across the board, you could sit down at somebody's kitchen table and explain to them in granular detail, this policy will pay this amount for this and will pay this amount for that. And you have to do this in order to get paid. And you have to have this note from your doctor or this note from your employer or whatever. And people would look you dead in the face and say, yeah, I got it. And then when they needed to use the insurance, no, they didn't even know where their contract was. Oh, Cameron, help. What do I do? My wife has cancer and she can't go to work. And okay, so then I'm going back to the office. I'm pulling their original file and like sometimes hand delivering people checks in order to satisfy their insurance claims. To say that these people are evil and looking to screw you over, I promise what every insurance company wants is for everybody to live a long time, almost never get sick, and actually pay low premiums. That would be ideal for their business model. Chris, unmute yourself.
You're muted. Chris, you're muted.
But yeah, they'd rather have you paying low premiums over a long period than high premiums over a short one.
Absolutely.
The time value of money is, compound interest is a thing. People talk about insurance companies trying to deny claims all the time. Listen, if you've got a little $5,000 or $6,000 claim, it's going to get paid. Even, Cameron was talking about the meeting 100%. If you meet 90% of the conditions, your little $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 claim, it's going to get paid because the insurance company knows damn well it's going to cost them more than that to argue it in court. When you start seeing, big claims, right? Oh, your multi-million-dollar business burned down. Yeah, we're going to have some questions. Right? And
even rightly so.
And exactly. Well, and for the insurance company, if you're talking about paying out a multi-million-dollar claim, if you can delay that for a year, then that's a year of interest on the millions of dollars that you didn't pay for a year. They do have a vested interest there. And when they start talking to the lawyers and the lawyers say, well, it'll cost you, $10 million to pay this claim. It'll cost us $1 million to argue about it in court for a year. Oh, that's not a hard call. It's a business call. Just real quick.
Go ahead.
So health insurance is, as we have it in America today, is not insurance. The way Lloyd's of London is the original insurance. It's called underwriter because Lloyd's of London had their name on the bottom of the sign. And the whole point to insurance was, okay, look, there's a bunch of us that are all doing stuff that's risky, right? And so there's a chance that any one of us is going to get fucked, but probably not all of us. But if one of us has a bad day, Waller, what's up, my man?
What's up? What's up? How you guys doing?
Excellent. Hold on just a second while I finish this thought. So if one of us has a bad day, right, my ship sinks with a shipment, that's it. I'm out of business. I am ruined. But if hundreds of us kind of put a little bit here, there, in here, and a little bit in there, we build up this fund, and only one or two of us are gonna actually have a really bad day, and then we all get we all help each other out. It was it started off as just like, hey guys, hey, I got fucked. Y'all help unfuck me, and then it became this behemoth that it is today. And then you get to the Obamacare style socialized medicine, and all of a sudden you're using insurance to pay for things that you should be buying a la carte, and they cost dramatically more when they're funded that way than if you were buying them a la carte. Like it is psychotic that you give your insurance information to a doctor to get a basic physical, a basic checkup, right? If I'm going in with a cough to say, hey doc, do I need penicillin or do I need NyQuil? Right? Oh, well, you need penicillin. So here's a script for that. Go pay the $50 for your prescription. That'll be $50 for the consult. Have a nice day. That is how medicine worked. And now it doesn't work because it is a lie. When you say the word health insurance in America today, you are telling a lie. It doesn't exist.
No, functionally, it doesn't exist. And there's an additional layer to it. Like when you have a life insurance policy, for example, if somebody dies while they're actively covered by a life insurance policy, well, there's not a whole bunch of extra parties that get involved in paying out that claim. It's pretty easy to prove if somebody's dead. Now, there might be some suspicious circumstances around that death, and in that case, the insurance company is justified in not paying the claim. The big difference with health insurance is you've got all these extra steps of compliance. If there was ever an example of where overregulation actually kills a business model, I would tell you that the health insurance industry is like example numero fucking uno. Because things can happen like, for example, anesthesiologists can bill for extra hours. Like, if you ever go to the hospital, look at your hospital bill. Why did it cost $180 for you to bring me ibuprofen? Why did that happen? Why are the rules set up in such a way? So there's all these different factors where, well, we're going to base things off how Medicaid pays things out, but Medicaid is going to base how they pay things out based on 80% of the average payout of an insurance claim. So you've got all this push-pull where all these things crash into each other. And then, as Chris pointed out, people don't even understand their health insurance the way that they're supposed to. They think of it as this silver bullet. So, well, I have health insurance. It shouldn't cost me anything to go to the doctor. Hey, dumbass, you're having $183 per pay period taken out of your check. It costs you at least $183 to go see the doctor. So when you start to put all those things together, it's really easy to point to the insurance company and say, man, these guys are just denying claims. Well, no, they're not. The entire system is so ass backwards and has so many extra steps built into the process.
Our friend of the show, Unverified Bear, speaking of what you're talking about there with the cost getting out of control, Cameron says NASA's daily budget is 65 to 70 million. That's NASA's daily budget, which there's a whole conversation. But the NHS, so that's the National Health Service, Bear is in the UK, spends more than that every 3 hours. Every 3 hours. That's insane.
Yeah, medical bills make as much fiscal sense as defense contracts, and it has to do with the government. is the source. Anyway, Waller.
Yeah,
Tell
please,
me,
Waller.
tell me
You're
something,
here.
Waller.
What are your
Okay,
theories on?
So I have a buddy who's a dentist, and he God, this must have been right around COVID time. He just decided to stop taking insurance altogether. He was like the cost of filing insurance as his office, just it wasn't paying out. He was like, everyone ends up being cheaper if I just get rid of this whole insurance scam in my office.
Correct.
And so
All those cute little girls that work in the front office, they don't have medical degrees. They've taken classes on how to code insurance.
they haven't even taken those classes. They learn all of that shit on the job, and they learn that stuff through going through, paid conferences with these insurance companies to know how to do it for that insurance company versus that insurance company. And at the end of the day, it ends up becoming, he's like, why does someone want to go through the hours that it takes to, fight an insurance claim for a $50 checkup? He's like, if I lower my costs by getting rid of having to file this insurance, then I can do this, oh, you need a dental cleaning? Yeah, bam, bam. You're in and out within, 20, 30 minutes. He's like, $50 for 30 minutes? That's worth it to me.
Yeah, $50 in a half hour. I'll do that twice on Tuesday.
Now that doesn't mean that, someone that's going through an 8-hour surgery, it makes sense to not have insurance, but it's trying to use insurance for all this nickel and dime shit. That's just, it's killing the industry. It's killing, the patient's pocketbooks. And it's, largely putting these smaller offices underwater.
Yeah, I agree. Cost of compliance is basically a hidden tax that no one knows about until they're subject to it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it just, the whole thing gets ridiculous. Like, I went and, I put a fly straight through my my finger the other week, and it cost me $75 to go get that thing removed. It would have, my time's worth money. Like, just sitting there filling out all the bullshit forms. I was like, can I just do this without insurance? And they're like, well, do you want to pay it out of pocket? And I was like, yep, I'd much rather pay this out of pocket than deal with all this bullshit and wait another hour to get this thing out. Just yank it.
God, you talk about sitting in a damn waiting room. One thing, I hate dealing with doctors because there's just zero respect for your time. You got an appointment at 9:30, you show up at 9:15, get checked in, and then somewhere around 10:30 you're actually talking to a doctor, and he spends half the useless time you've got with him complaining about how everybody else is slowing him down. I'm like, son, if you would just not spend 5 minutes complaining about how fucking busy you are to every patient you have, you'd be on time. But and you're right, Waller. Your time is worth money. My time is worth money. Like the $5 you guys are gonna throw me to buy me a coffee / Brushfire Mind. Link in the description, link in the chat. We do love it when y'all help support the show that way.
That wasn't cringe at all.
We're coming up on 8:16. Hey, okay.
Hey, to get back onto the subject of,
I am no longer asking for your donations.
Hey, folks, it's Cameron from the Brushfire Mind, and this is coffee. If you check out the link down below in the description, you can find ways to support us by buying us more coffee. Okay, thanks.
Not cringe.
Boy, that was Cameron 30 pounds ago.
Yes, it was.
I like them thick. So, to get back onto the assassination topic, it is absolutely mind-boggling how much misinformation that the media and the New York Police Department are putting out on this. Like, if they want people to help find this guy, why are they pointing them at the wrong direction? Why are they putting out, oh, this was the Station 6, when clearly it was not. Why when, oh, we're looking for this person. That is clearly not the same fucking person. So it just, I don't know, man. It's too much for me. Like it makes zero sense. And the description, yeah, like this on ABC. The description of the Station 6 is just absolutely just wrong. Like you can't mistakenly get to this level of wrong.
Can I interrupt real quick? I can hear like a news story. What's going on?
I cannot. So
Really? Well,
Never mind.
I'll do this.
It was on my end. My bad. Never mind.
Oh, well, shit. I just closed out all of the articles I had pulled up to solve that issue. But you know what? No problem. I think we've dealt with the articles enough. So just we can drive on.
I just want to add one final note to it. The well rod, okay, weapon, the specific one Waller said.
Hey Mario, real quick, move your mic up and towards you just a hair.
Right. So there was a sale of that particular weapon at a Connecticut gun shop. Okay, and that's what the New York police were like seizing on. Okay, but yeah, based on the video, I don't believe it was that at all. But that's just, I don't know. They're still running with it in the media, and I don't really know why. Maybe they just don't know.
My friends up in New York City, they're like, yeah, man, like this is still what they're telling us to look for.
Yep. Weird.
And yeah, so it's odd, and it feels almost like the whole Olympic Park bombing down in Atlanta, where we're gonna focus on this shit, and they're gonna end up ruining some people's lives and not get anywhere closer.
Right before that happened.
Yeah, and they're not gonna get any closer to finding this guy. And this guy clearly didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Also, when you start looking at the
Jewel, I believe,
yeah, but when you start looking at the, these were words written on the casings. A 9mm casing isn't that fucking big.
It'd have to be etched, like laser etched. I mean, but
yeah, like what type of.
That's what the police are saying, though. So it's
I'd need reading glasses just to see the words. Like a 9mm round is tiny.
Yeah, like you're not getting those words written in any sort of resolution on a 9mm case that you're able to read it. It's just fucking smeared. And if those cases had actually gone through the firing process, they wouldn't last. So. Why the fuck are they running with this, depose, deny, defend, narrative when it just doesn't fit?
If you had attention to meticulous detail, I guess you could take an X-Acto knife and kind of etch it into the casing. But like I said,
but the point is to say if you wrote it on with like even say like a fine tip Sharpie, when you fire the case, it's still going to
smear
it, distort it, burn it off, and with the amount of gas that was coming.
That as far as the round going down the chamber, as far as the writing being smudged, my thought was either let's assume he did it with a Sharpie. I think they said etched, but let's assume they did it with a Sharpie. We saw him cycle the action several times. There was live rounds found at the scene aside the spent casings, apparently, according to the report. So I didn't see a moment where he appeared to pull something out of his pocket and drop it, but he could have done that right before he started firing shots. Or it could have been that he had that one loaded in and just, he was counting his rounds. I mean, Waller, that's, you count when you're shooting, when you're a professional and you're getting bad guys. You count.
Yeah, but if he was a professional, he wouldn't have run into the issue of using underpowered rounds.
Correct. Agreed.
This was not a professional shooter. This was someone that is, they go to the range, but they're not a professional shooter. They're not a hitman. They're not a gray man. They're not, no. And this guy, if we find him, we're going to find him dead. He's going to have, a fentanyl overdose, and we're going to find him, whoever this individual is, because you're not paying someone to survive that.
Well, yeah, and you don't want him to go on trial, and then basically he becomes a populist hero. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
Hey, real quick, His Majesty Sergeant Major James Lowry, the author, the essential originating author of USAREC Regulation 601-2, says homework project. And that sounds a hell of a lot to me like the old man wants the four of us to come out to the farm and see how many rounds we can write secret messages on and run through whatever caliber weapon we can put to the range. I would love to put that shit on video. What are y'all doing Sunday?
Coming out to the farm, I guess.
In this case, I kid. Dad won't be around Sunday, so I know, Dad. I know you wouldn't mind if we were to use the farm for that, but hell, if you're not around, we could do that on my property. But you know what? When you get back from your trip, old man, that would be fun.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where the distortion that you're going to find on a fired case doesn't allow for readable Sharpie
Correct.
shit. And if they want to say that it was etched, get fucked. Like, no one's sitting there.
That's what I said. You'd have to be sitting there with a little.
If you've etched the round, you might as well have perforated it as soon as it. Because that casing can take only so much of the force from the explosive power of the primer setting off the gunpowder to eject the round and conduct the ballistic action. The fucking casing is going to destroy the gun. So if it was etched and the round was fired, that's your shot. You've shot your shot. You're done. That gun is trash.
What if you taped a little fortune cookie piece of paper around it?
but that's the thing, is that when you start looking into this, it just gets more and more ridiculous to the point where this doesn't work in real life. This works in video games. This works in spy books, but this doesn't work in real life. It's not a well rod. It's not it's not a professional shooter. It's not no one's sitting there oh, I'm shooting this guy because he's an executive. No, they're shooting him because he's about to fucking spill the beans on an insider trading scheme.
Mario's suggestion of taping the little fortune cookie round, or the fortune cookie tag on the round, this thought just ran through my head. The newer, like, less than lethal, like pepper ball guns that shoot a nice big BB ball, right? I suddenly want to manufacture and sell something like that, where you've got a round that is frangible. It's non-lethal. It hits you like a paintball, right? Falls apart, and then you've got the little fortune cookie strip left on the ground there, and it says things like, "This could have been worse. Maybe you should rethink your life."
So check out if you're curious about that. FN makes a firearm, if you will. Less lethal. It's called the 303, and no, man, it totally can fucking do that.
That would be hilarious. Now, personally, I will never carry a less lethal weapon. I carry a weapon to be lethal. But
yeah,
if you're not dangerous, you're not a man.
True.
I'm not dangerous. I'm a teddy bear, baby. Come holler.
I guarantee you have a weapon within reach of you right now. You are dangerous.
So what if it's just a whole lot more simple than that? What if dude was having an affair and his wife hired a hitman and the guy was a little nutty? I mean, because you have to.
Most likely, I suspect the most likely explanation is this was a Democrat, and frankly, you don't need any more. You need any more guarantee of mental illness than he voted for Kamala Harris. He's mentally unstable and blames this guy because, oh, you're in charge of that evil healthcare company, and I don't like what you're doing.
Well, I think that's the narrative that they're trying to push. I don't think that's the reality of the situation.
Well, he is from Atlanta, apparently. So does that mean that you guys bear collective shame for his actions?
No, he's probably from a middle class family.
Oh, with that type of bag and sweatshirt and hoodie.
He's from
He's
that
upper
neighborhood.
class.
He's from that neighborhood north of Atlanta where they're trying to break away and establish their own
Oh
city.
yeah, Buckhead.
Yeah.
I've shot some pretty houses in Buckhead with a camera.
That
With a camera.
backpack would be an excellent Christmas idea for Chris, by the way. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. How is it that they're saying that he came from Atlanta last month, but don't know his name?
Man, I'm just reading some shit from
Yeah,
ABC.
that doesn't make any sense. I know what an intelligence package looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
That's from an article I pulled up this morning before the show from ABC. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the guy left a paper trail long enough to be a
Support the
CVS
news.
receipt, but we don't know who he is.
You can't at least tell me we've identified these connected aliases. Come on.
And the internet remains largely undefeated. This is one thing that I'm curious about: is how come no 4chan like super autist has like cross-referenced the photo and said, "Oh, here's his Facebook picture," or
They're too busy arguing about whether or not he's white. We'll get there.
Well, because this. Okay, so you bring up a good point, and one of the things that I think is important to remember is that 4chan is run by certain agencies. It is not its own little thing. It's definitely the influence of the agencies and the analysts that work for these agencies. They're not trying to. They're not trying to look at this. They're not trying to blow up the narrative. They're not trying to, do anything. They're trying to let it go and let this be this guy was killed because he was the CEO of this corrupt insurance company, as opposed to getting into the real reasons behind, this dude's murder, why, the legacy media is just so packed full of misinformation. I mean, we're seeing it in front of our eyes that this is a fucking setup, and it's just gonna be allowed to happen.
well, my one issue with that is that the internet, the 4chan types, they're like, whatever the narrative is supposed to be, they don't give a shit. Like, we knew who the tranny shooter was in less than 24 hours after the Nashville incident. The Walmart shooter that was supposed to be a white guy that was actually a Mexican guy. Like, we knew who he was. Every time one of these things happens and there is confusion about who the bad guy is, the internet just kind of sails in and gives us an identity. And the fact that we're 24 hours out and there's not an identity is the exception, not the rule.
I'll go on 4chan right now. Let me just see if there's anything hot at the top of the page.
Well, with it being the exception as opposed to the rule, kind of shows that this is a little bit beyond the typical. The train shooters, the fucking Walmart shooters, what have you. Okay, they're not high priority, high profile operations. This kind of was.
Yes, it was high profile, but you have to look at the other side of it. People get emotionally invested in these sorts of stories. And like using the Nashville shooter as an example, having some tranny that got hopped up on too much testosterone and was and didn't understand how to control what I'll refer to as the male rage, and went and murdered a bunch of kids like that. as far as the narrative is concerned, if we just accept as a premise that there is an overarching narrative from the left, well, what you don't want is somebody that should never have had gender affirming care going out and committing mass murder. Like, you don't need that to be the narrative. So, yes, this is a high profile assassination, but the emotional investment piece of it says to me that there's the same motivation from the autist community to expose whatever really happened, consequences be damned. And look, I'm only pushing back just to push back because we know so little, and what we do know seems to self-contradict so hard that we might not ever know. We could be looking at the next Las Vegas shooter where the only thing we do know is that we're never going to know exactly what happened.
Okay.
Well, exactly.
Cameron, you'd be proud. All right. So on poll right now, they're actually your theory.
Mario, get your mic.
Sorry. So your theory about it being someone else in the industry who wanted this guy dead, so they hired basically some patsy, okay, to do the job. That's their running theory right now. So yep, your poll approved.
Oh, yay.
Cameron, are you ready to count dropped toothpicks? All right, so we're just over an hour now. Let me go ahead and wrap this up. I want you guys to hang out while I close this out. But it's Friday, and what do we do on Friday, Waller?
Safety brief.
Safety brief, baby. Safety brief. It is Friday. It is the first Friday of December, which means that we have an especially important safety brief, especially for those of you who have children. You guys recognize this guy, the elf on the shelf, right? Everybody understands the elf on the shelf. So here's your safety brief. The idea is that the elf on the shelf is watching the kids, helping Santa writing the list, checking it twice, going to find out who's naughty and nice. That's foreign interference. This is an enemy intelligence agent. This is an operative being allowed within the safety of your operational security, your physical security. Unacceptable. We practice safe sex in this house. OPSEC, InfoSec, ComSec, PersSec, FISSEC, etc. Right? Do not voluntarily invite hostile foreign invaders into your home to observe and report on your activities. This is bad OPSEC. Also, the elves are fey, and those little motherfuckers can't be trusted for anything.
It's true.
So,
it's funny about...
We've got the elf on the shelf safety brief out of the way, right? As far as the rest of the safety brief for weekends generally, sex, drugs, rock and roll, farm animals, and videotape, no two at the same time. Thanks for watching.
Don't tell me how to live my best life.
We love you. Merry Christmas, and we will see you on Monday. Or at least I will, right?